Good morning and thanks for tuning in. In the news yesterday, there was quite a lot of discussion and debate regarding the end of life bill, is the best way to put it. The legalisation of assisted dying, the assisted dying bill, whatever you wish to call it. A bill that's been introduced by the Labour MP Kim Ledbetter in October last year. And as you all know, or you may not know, the bill seeks to permit terminally ill adults to request assistance in ending their own lives, subject to safeguards. Now, although this is a political channel, sometimes politics does drift across into the realm of philosophy. And I think this is one of those issues which has a key component of morality attached to it. So the actual philosophy of assisted dying itself is rooted in some key ethical, moral, and also, I suppose you could say, legal debates about self-autonomy, dignity, suffering, and the role of medicine, if it has one, in end-of-life care. Obviously, when you're in the end of life, medicine has a role, but should medicine play a role in ending the life? Medicine is meant to look after you, after all. Now, just before we cover this in a bit of depth, it's obvious to everyone that nobody wants to see anybody suffer in pain. If you've ever been around someone at the end of their life and they are in agony due to whatever the condition is, or in a state that they would certainly not wish other people to see them, or in a state that they are completely unhappy with and just want everything to end, then the debate's really about compassion for your fellow man. I witnessed a family member die of cancer, metastasized in a horrific manner. Towards the end, it was clear that there was a lot of pain. The Macmillan people, fabulous people, came in and assisted where they could. And they do those sitting up all night sessions where they wait for the person to wake up, and who only knows the conversations that they have with people. What a group of people the Macmillan people are. They get my full respect. But is it right that we allow people to end their life? At the core of it, my belief is that we should. Who is in charge of our bodies? Who looks after us? Do we have autonomy over our own bodies? Are we sovereign in ourselves? Or is it that we're just subject to the wills and laws of whatever country we happen to be in? After all, if you're in another country around the world, some countries will allow you to end your own life, some won't. So really, it's not a universal human right. What if you're in a country that allows you to do it? Does that make it right or wrong? No. The choice whether you wish to end your own life is your choice. That's my belief. It's not up to the society that you live in to own your body. If you are not harming anybody else, then you should be permitted to take your own life. That's my view. However, now that we've had that, we are going to cover, the core philosophical tenets of what we're talking about here. But at the core of it, I just want to underline compassion. And, of course, the limits of state intervention in personal decisions. So the first thing is that the principle of autonomy argues that Individuals themselves should have the right to make those decisions about themselves, including when and how they die. Now, those supporters on the plus side believe that if someone is suffering from a terminal illness with no hope whatsoever of recovery, they should have the freedom to choose a dignified death rather than endure unnecessary pain. And this is an unarguable point. It is true. Who wants to see anybody suffering unnecessary pain? However, is it about mercy? Is it about pity? When you allow people with unbearable pain, terminal illness, or some type of degenerative condition to choose a peaceful and controlled death, what you're doing there is you're giving that person freedom to do what they want. But does that mean that people should have the right to choose their own death? Is it dangerous? After all, many religious traditions do oppose assisted dying. They view it as perhaps playing God or interfering with the natural life and death processes. Suffering does have a spiritual dimension. An end of life prematurely does go against a lot of religious and moral values. Prolonging life at all costs, though, is not always ethical. What if it leads to extreme suffering or loss of dignity? Is there really an idea of a good death? Euthanasia, dying with dignity? Should people be able to die on their own terms, rather than being forced to endure perpetual pain in a life they've lost all meaning in? All of these arguments are obvious to anybody with a heart, anybody with a human soul can understand. You see it in animals sometimes. For instance, you'll see it on a racetrack when a horse breaks its leg. That horse has been cared for since it was a very small foal. It breaks its leg, and what happens? Often the trainer or somebody else will go out and the screen will go up and they'll put the horse out of its misery. We often do that with animals. We put them to sleep. If you've ever inquired about what happens when you have a dog, I'm a dog owner. The process is that you take the dog to be put to sleep. As a mercy, the dog's ill, you take it to the vet will say, oh, I'm sorry, I can feel a lump, or oh, this is what it is, or the dog's in pain. What I would recommend is that you take the dog home and you spend a couple of days with the animal as a send-off. Go at the beach or something, or do whatever you do, and then why don't you pop back here in 2 days and I'll put the animal to sleep. And you can choose to be there when it happens. In those 2 days, give the family a chance to say goodbye to the animal in a kind and compassionate way. In a way, the vet themselves in that little situation is acting on behalf of the dog or the animal. They are representing in that discussion the dog. Because often, of course, people don't want to put their dogs down because they love them. However, really, the vet there representing the dog knows. He knows the truth. She knows the truth, whatever. They know that the dog's in pain, and they know that the humane thing to do is to put the dog to sleep. And so they represent the dog, much in the same way, I suppose, as doctors represent terminally ill patients. The doctor is the representative there of the patient. Therefore, within this assisted dying bill, the doctor has a huge responsibility. Now, I've read through the bill itself, and there's various parts in it where the doctor and then another doctor and a second opinion and all of this. And then, of course, the debate yesterday was whether it should be a panel of experts or a judge. I mean, I would argue that a panel of experts is probably going to know better. A panel of medical professionals is probably going to know better than a judge. I think this was all a bit of a pantomime. If you're going to go for the bill, go for the bill. Now, with regard to the safeguarding concerns and the slippery slope argument, which I do understand, let's say we go back to the vet example and I take my dog to the vet and I say, hey, will you put that dog down? And the vet might say the dog's perfectly healthy, and I'm pretty sure the vet's not going to put the dog down. Likewise, you would hope that the medical profession would be professional enough to not slip up. But obviously, we know from experience that that's not going to happen. Mistakes will be made. People will die who perhaps shouldn't have. We can all picture that situation. You've got grandma who's in her 90s. The whole family's waiting around. She's got a few quid, a nice big house there. It doesn't take a genius to work out that there's going to be instances where they may say, oh, is everything all right, Grandma? You haven't been yourself recently, have you? It's been said that many men, most men over the age of 90, die with some sort of prostate cancer. It's very common in men. My grandfather died with prostate cancer. That wasn't what killed him, but he'd had it for about 5 years. So there is a component here where there are lots of slow burn cancers in older people. Not the turbo cancers we've become associated with in modern life, but, you know, the type where people just kind of live with them. What will happen in those instances? Could they be classified as a terminal illness? Surely all cancers are terminal. These are all of just some of the worries that this legally assisted dying bill could lead to: abuse, coercion, the devaluation of life, especially for the elderly, disabled people, vulnerable people. What about if you have a vulnerable adult who contracts a terminal illness, a disabled person? This is all very, very, very complicated stuff. And in addition to that, what if there's a societal shift? Perhaps in 50 years, when this has all become normalised, when the lines have been blurred a little bit, making death seem like a solution to suffering instead of, improving care options, or perhaps paying the bill at a care home. Who knows? Society's way that they deal with things shifts very quickly. And people being born today are those people that are going to be ruling society and making all the decisions for families in 60 years. So what's going to happen then when all those people have ever known has been assisted dying? That's going to cause a shift. Certainly by 2100, it may even start to become an option, may even become a fashionable trend. How about Don't worry about saving for retirement. You don't have to save for all that much. After all, most people, they volunteer to pop off around 80. Now, I'm in the realms of a dark fantasy there, but I'm sure you can understand. Societal shifts do happen in society, and that will, no doubt, if this bill passes, and I'm sure it's going to, become an issue. So, key questions. Should people have the right to choose their own death? Yes, in my opinion. Is assisted dying an act of compassion, or is it dangerous? Yes, and yes. Should the state or religion that you subscribe to have the power to prevent individuals from ending their suffering? No, in my opinion. Where is the line between allowing assisted dying and protecting the vulnerable? Well, I have no idea about that. So, the philosophy of this assisted dying is deeply complex. We've got freedoms for individuals, we've got medical ethics, moral concerns, fundamental human rights, threatening the sanctity of life, ever-evolving societies, medical advancements, shifting moral perspectives. This is all really complicated stuff. It seems, on a positive note, I'll end this on a positive note, that the politicians seem to have taken on a more serious tone, which is nice to see. They seem as if they recognise the importance of the decision that they've been given, this particular parliament. They seem as if they are giving it the due care and attention that it deserves. We shall see how it goes out. I get the feeling that this isn't so much Kim Ledbetter's bill as it's Keir Starmer's bill. Now, is that right or is that wrong? Who knows? What does matter is that ultimately this bill is going to go through, and the medical establishment, those people who take the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, the doctors, the experts, the end-of-life care people, the nurses involved, the whole establishment of medicine involved, let's hope that they look after and take proper care and due diligence on what they're presented with. It's been my experience that when I've discussed anything with a doctor, they've been excellent. And so I have every faith that most of the time this is going to go okay. But in saying that, I also know that some of the time they're going to get it wrong. And that is something as a society we're going to have to accept. This isn't 100% pass we're going to do here. Inevitably, some people will slip through the system and people will die. But perhaps that's the complicated thing about societal morality and ethics. There is no silver bullet in anything. There's no one shoe fits all. There's always a balance. And inevitably, some people are going to die that didn't need to die or didn't want to die. But on balance, this is how society rolls. This is how we get things done. Sorry, it was a bit of a somber one there. But thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye now.